Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Hey everybody, it's Joe and I'm back out here at Giga Texas, and of course thank you very much to Tesla Club Austria for giving me this amazing shirt, and I really do appreciate that, and it was great getting a chance to meet you and give a lot of you some Robotaxi rides when you were in town. Now for Tesla, there's been a lot of big news items over the last 48 hours if you haven't been keeping track. A couple of the biggest ones are, first, V14 of full self-driving has started to roll out to a relatively small group of people that normally have in the past tested out full self-driving. We've been seeing that from Dirty Tesla, Chuck Cook, Homar's Catalog, and AI Driver, and a bunch of other people. And so far, the results and the reports seem to be extremely promising. There may be a few items that need to be cleaned up before it starts rolling out to a bigger audience, but so far it seems to be, for the most part, living up to all of the hype and also the expectations of this truly being a breakthrough release for full self-driving. So I'm going to be heading out here in a moment to do a Robotaxi ride here in Austin, and I'll see if there's any changes with that. I'm still waiting for it myself, but hopefully we'll see that soon. Now, another big item yesterday, of course, was the unveiling of the new Model Y and Model 3 standard variants of the vehicles. And a lot of that happened right here at Giga Texas. Now, if you hadn't seen, I got a chance to be one of the people that saw it first and get some footage and some information about that. I did put out a video. Here's the splash screen for that. You can find that on my YouTube channel, and also on X. I posted a lot of images and other videos that you might find interesting. Now, there were a bunch of other people that were here for that event. Sawyer Merritt was here, which is really great to see. Kim Java was here, and she got a chance to see a lot of the vehicles as well. And there was also Kyle from Out of Spec, and he did a really great in-depth discussion about both of the vehicles as well. There were other people that have put out videos, so you get plenty of information about that. Now, the basics are the Model Y standard starts at $39,990, the Model 3 standard at $36,990. Of course, there's no EV tax credits, so Tesla's been working to try to bring those prices down and try to help out prospective buyers with the price. And we'll see how this goes. It's first day since the release, so we'll be waiting for a few weeks to find out what the reception is. But yeah, Tesla continues to build out more of its vehicle fleet, which is great to see. Another thing that I did notice today, speaking of vehicle fleets, is over at the outbound lot, it was very active with Cybertrucks today. Particularly, many of them were the long-range rear-wheel drive variants, which is kind of strange since it's no longer for order on the website. Now, there may be an explanation for that, and it has to do with SpaceX. Now, yesterday, a lot of people noticed that there were a lot of Cybertrucks being delivered to Starbase. They've also been delivering them over at the the Starlink factory over in Bastrop, Texas. And there's also reports over at Kennedy Space Center of large numbers of Cybertrucks being delivered. Now, what this is a project going on with SpaceX to replace all of their gas and diesel vehicles, and they are starting with a lot of Cybertrucks. So it looks to me like they are building them here for at Giga Texas for SpaceX, and that's why we're seeing a lot of the long-range wheel drives over in the outbound lot today. So pretty neat to see how all of this kind of comes together. So without further ado, that's pretty much the news that I want to cover for the intro. Let's get into the drone, let's fly around and see what Giga Texas looks like on this day after the Model Y and Model 3 standard were released, and also as V14 FSD is starting to really shine and get a lot of exposure out in the public. So let's go flying.
If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are considering purchasing Starlink, I would recommend that you use my referral link at the bottom of the screen. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Another beautiful morning here at Giga Texas. We are starting off on the west side where I noticed a lot of activity over at the outbound lot. So we're going to bring the drone down, fly along the road heading back to the north, and you'll see just to the south of the end of line, not only are there some activity with the lights of the vehicles underneath the superchargers, but we're going to see this large grouping of Cybertrucks coming up very soon. I noticed that several were driving out of the Cyber Tunnel and then headed over here. Now, the thing that I noticed that stood out was not only the number of Cybertrucks, which is great to see, but also almost all of them are the long-range rear-wheel drive variant. And I believe that this may be related to some of the orders for SpaceX, as we talked in the intro, where they are currently changing over their entire fleet of gas and diesel vehicles to electric cars, and specifically they're going to be using Cybertrucks. So what I'm going to expect to see, and you should as well, if you head down to Starbase, go to the Kennedy Space Center, if you go over to Bastrop at the Starlink facility, McGregor, where they do the testing, and some of their other sites around the country, you're most likely going to see a lot of Cybertrucks. So that is great, and in a way that means Cybertrucks are headed to Mars, and that, who knows, maybe will actually happen someday. Now, this grouping here of Cybertrucks, most of them have tonneau covers, so it's mostly the all-wheel drive or Cyber Beast, but there are a few that may also be the long range. But a great view of all of these Cybertrucks next to the very active test track, and of course more of the Model Ys here and the outbound lot. I know many people are wondering, since I just covered the Model Y Standard Edition and it was released by Tesla, when will we see those starting to show up here? And that is a good question. I'm going to say that it's probably going to be a couple of weeks as they finish the ramping up and preparation for the lines and just get all their supply lines and all of the final details worked out. And then we will start seeing those materializing over here on the outbound lot. And that'll give us a great idea about how production is going and how maybe the orders are going as well with those new vehicles. Now, here is some more Cybertrucks getting ready to go into the end of line and get a final process before they head over to the outbound lot. They have this new line of cones, which helps direct the vehicles. It is possible that this might be a way for them to begin using more autonomous driving throughout this entire part of the site. And my understanding is that the goal is to use more autonomous driving to bring the vehicles over to the outbound lot and prepare for shipping. So that will be something that I will watch out for. And if there's anything that's very obvious, I'll be able to show you in the coming weeks. Now, this is a good mix of vehicles on the west side of the outbound lot. Of course, the transport trucks are getting everything ready to go and loading up the vehicles for their shipping off-site. And of course, we're in a new quarter now, so we'll be watching to see how production is doing to give us some insight into the orders and how well the quarter is coming along, especially after that big end of third quarter, which just wrapped up recently. Over at the West Staging Yard, we see a lot of the materials that have been up here on the north end, not a lot of changes. This is what the transformers look like right now. Again, I don't think there's much changes here. The biggest place of change for the transformers is over by that white tent that you see in the top left of the screen. And this area, I noticed that some of the materials seem to be have moved into the factory from here. Most of this is to support the build out of 4680 structural packs in the factory. We see here what may be either a bridge crane or some other related item. It could be with those kind of the truss structures, although I think that those might be storage racks. These are some more cabinets that are used for the 4680 manufacturing process. I also noticed all of these superchargers again. They've been here for a while. We see all the materials that are related to them. Several of the superchargers have now moved off this location. So I don't know. I have not seen them on the site, so perhaps they have been moved off the site. So I'll keep an eye out as we fly around and over time and see if we can get an idea. But it could be just a new supercharger site being put in somewhere near this area. This is what that large clearing appears like today. There is some excavation, but not a lot else going on. Of course, all the steel that still is being stored here temporarily. Most of this activity has kind of dwindled down after they've done the installation of the mezzanines inside the factory. This is what the lot looks like with the transformers here next to that tent. Does look like the numbers have dwindled to some degree, and we recently did see some of them leaving the site. On this side of the staging yard, of course, we still see these crates, green wrapped items, and other materials and equipment that is slated for production lines inside the factory. The fact that this is about the last remaining equipment and it's segregated here kind of gives me an idea it's for a different part of the factory. So I'll be continuing to watch to see where this does get put into the factory. Maybe we'll get some more ideas. But as far as the rest of the crates, we do see a few here at the bottom of the screen. But in that big, large center section of the screen, almost all of it is gone. And what we just see is a little bit of the bins for recycling of the materials. A little bit more items here with workers apparently sorting through some steel items. Again, I think all of this is production line equipment. See the yard trailers on the left to move them into the factory. And just the rate that they're going is great to see because it's indicating that they are getting close to the final part of installing equipment and machinery for those production lines in the factory. So I'm going to continue to fly up over the power lines towards the caisson where we will see some big changes, especially down in the caisson itself. Now on the surface, we see these large kind of cylindrical items, some larger sizes than others. And this might be being placed on the bottom of the caisson where you see the two pipes, tunnels coming together. This is what it looks like down at the bottom. And we'll have to continue to watch and see how this all materializes as they continue to build out this site with these other items, which may be part of the water management or diversion system that helps with the intercepting of the wastewater, which is what the purpose of this caisson system is all about. There's also a lot of activity here at this caisson, the excavation nearby. I'm going to position over the crane, zoom in. We can see a view of what is going on at the bottom of the caisson itself. They have these platforms. It looks like there is some water kind of standing at the bottom. And that just shows that there is constant seepage because of the water table here. Looks like they're putting down some sort of equipment. It may be related to concrete. It may be something else. It's hard to really tell from this angle, but you can see this excavation with the bars that are helping to kind of keep the walls from collapsing in as more of the excavation work is underway. And you can see those steel wall segments attached to those I-beams that were pushed down into the ground. And there's still that one on the left center that's standing a lot taller than the other ones. I'm not sure if they ran into some sort of an issue. But that's a kind of a quick look here at what's going on with the caisson work as they continue to finish out this water intercept system. Now on the south side of the river road, this trench box is still here. It looks like the depth of this excavation is quite extreme, and they're continuing to work with pumping out water so that they can do the installation of the pipes. Now along the south side of River Road to the midpoint, we see more of the trench boxes. And I believe this is all connecting together with that other one that we saw on the west side, and ultimately all part of that water intercept system that they are installing on this part of the site. As we get closer to the cooling plant, I'll zoom back in. This is where on the north side of the river road, they have these trench boxes and additional excavation work that is underway. This is a great view of that chiller plant. All 6 of the fans are working. Maybe that's an indication about version 14 of FSD and additional training. It's hard to say. I did notice this gantry crane setup, and it looks like some large deliveries taking place. Those cranes are used to help maneuver the large items off the trucks and onto self-propelled modular transformers so that they can move those inside. Speaking of which, we can tell that the work on this new inside structure is nearing complete. We have this mezzanine level that's being added in, and this is attached to some of those new columns that were added in a few months ago. We saw all that work on the ground slab, and the lighting gives us some good views inside. I'll have to try to come back when it's darker, maybe earlier in the morning, so we can get some better idea of what is going on, but they're clearly continuing to add capacity and more space and offices in this south end extension. So as I bring the drone up, look over the power lines towards the west across the south end. This gives a great idea of what the whole excavation work around River Road appears like. Of course, the main factory with downtown Austin in the upper left, and River Road that continues to extend past this lined water pond and the natural pond over to this new intersection. They've been widening the road, widening the berm on the south side, as you can tell, and looks like they're getting ready to prepare for probably 2 lanes each direction with a median coming into this intersection. Of course, then they will finish off this intersection with Robotic Avenue, which is on the top of the screen heading to the north, and then a new road that goes off into the tree line to the west, or to the east, sorry. And this is what that intersection extension of Robotic Avenue looks like right now. Still see the privacy fences here at the bottom of the parking garage. Most of the use of this is for parking of vehicles while they are waiting for movement over to the outbound lot for various different reasons. We can see the materials that are being stored here continuing to accumulate with large pipes and manifolds. And we can also get closer to the east part of the factory. I'll zoom in and just get a good sense of the activity around the temporary platforms, that kind of construction entrance next to the glass secondary entrance, and all of the trailers that are attached to the receiving doors, which is part of that warehouse on wheels concept. Not a lot of activity here with equipment going into that particular temporary platform. More of the materials being stockpiled here next to that large receiving door that has been here for a while. They do have inventory change out of that, but it still seems to be an accumulating point for all that equipment. This is where recycling of the stamping scraps takes place. You can see some of those blue bins and through the doors where that recycling machinery is located. And then here we see these interesting platforms or racking systems. And it's just really kind of hard to tell for sure exactly what those are. It looks like it may be related to production line equipment. Of course, there's that gantry crane. You can see that this large forklift is now moving one of those large boxes that was arriving on that trailer just a few minutes ago in the earlier part of the video. Of course, more deliveries next to stamping as well. So I'm going to zoom the video back out, and we're going to fly over the power lines and kind of reconfigure ourselves over to the west side of General Assembly. Proceeding north on this west side, on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll kind of pivot that way. You can see that grass matting along the berm for erosion control. and just how much of the trenching along the berm has been completed through this section. Looks like more of the grass matting is being applied now along this entire berm, which may be a great sign that that work is nearing completion. Now, I did notice this large structure that's being erected here next to the flagpoles. It turns out that this is for training, and it's kind of an annual type of training that the employees do. This is not a platform for lighting or for a presentation of any kind. So I was kind of disappointed to hear that, because I was hoping that we might see something cool as far as a production, but that's all it is a training device. This is where the Model Ys are exiting the factory, and looks like they just have a few in this one section. We see a new one coming out of that doorway, and of course that's coming out about 1 per minute is what the target is. We'll have to see if that is maintained in this fourth quarter, which will again give us an insight into what's going on with orders in production and how the quarter is shaping up. So I'll keep watching that as time goes on. They do have these deliveries of what look like tube sections for either heating and ventilation, or maybe some other kind of plumbing work that's installed inside the factory. But that is, more of a building material than some of the production line equipment that we have seen recently. This is where the recycling happens for the 4680 battery cell portion of the factory, and as they continue to get closer to Cybercab, the need for more batteries and more structure, or the battery packs, I guess it would be actually structural pack for the Cybercab. That need is going to grow dramatically, especially as that production line really ramps up and they start churning out a lot of those Cybercabs. Looks like there is some groundwork here on that concrete vault just to the north of the factory. And then along the north side, not a lot of interesting changes. We do see these kind of white racking systems here on the right. Most of them look empty, and that's where the plastics manufacturing is done. And of course, the paint stands for the bumpers. And with that new Model Y standard coming out with the bumper similar in size and shape, I think that they can probably still use the same stands for the painting of that vehicle. But if I notice any new versions of those bumper stands, I'll let you know. Now, with the Cybertruck production ramping up, the number of castings here is a great indication that they are planning on continuing to be making many more of them, and there's a lot of them stored here on the northeast side of the factory. Now, as I go around the power lines and bring the drone back down, I'll zoom in and just show you the work that is going on for that second furnace loading system. It looks like it's definitely making progress. We see those gray kind of triangular beams being added on part of the structure. And then next to it is some of the scrap aluminum and aluminum wheels, which is actually being picked up and moved over to the original loading process, or for the furnaces, and this will give you an idea of what the new one on the right will look like, and a great comparison side by side with this view and with the lighting. So as I zoom back out a little, we'll just kind of fly along this east side and just show you the number of Model Y castings. And of course, now that we know that the Model Y standard is essentially built identically as the Model Y Premium and Performance, that explains why we haven't seen any different kinds of castings for the Model Y. And it's also part of the strategy that Tesla is using, is basically using the capital expenditures that have already been made in the equipment and the production lines, and do that in a way that you don't have to do a lot of changes and not incur a lot of expenses. And that's probably good, because they've been doing so much work with that Cybercab line. This is what the new offices look like. They are now all being used, which means that the operations from these older ones has pretty much been finished up or is in the final processes, and we should see those removed maybe by the end of the year. It just depends on how fast they are going to go with that. The Cortex 2 building is making a lot of progress, as you can see, especially with the roofing, and they are now at that far north end and rapidly getting close to having that completed. As we wrap around the die shop and the battery cathode plant, this is just a great overall shot of this section and some of the materials that are still on the ground. Of course, we're kind of looking at what's going on with the crash test facility. Now that we know what the Model Y standard looks like, and also the Model 3 standard, it gives us kind of an insight into why there are some of these vehicles undercover. In fact, it looks like they may be preparing to remove the covers soon and maybe recycle these. But these are all Model 3 and Model Y standards that have undergone crash testing and probably part of that certification process since they are technically different models. It may also be just the iterative approach that Tesla uses for crash testing. But it's kind of nice to now know what those are and why they are there and why they went through the lengths of covering them up. But a nice, great view into the north end of the crash testing facility. And I'll pull away and just give you an overall view of the work and the progress that is being made here at this facility. The green transformers are still here, and the numbers look fairly steady over the last several days, so perhaps they're getting close to the final count of what they need for now. I'll zoom in to this north field where the rental equipment lot is located on the right-hand side of the screen, where they are doing more excavation work and using this dirt for the construction and raising of the grade on the west side of Cortex 2, and of course the large field that used to have a lot of equipment. Now most of it is in the process of being recycled, cleaning up that field, and then we'll see if they are going to start with the Harold Green Road that will go through that area and connecting State Highway 130 on the upper right and the housing community behind the drone. So they need to clean that field up anyway, so it looks like they're getting close to having that completed. As we come back to the battery cathode plant in the north end of the Cortex 2, this is with the lighting a great view of what is going on. And first of all, at the bottom of the screen, we can see the platforms that were here have all been moved inside the building, and it looks like they may be making a false floor part of the data center. And that's I've noticed it down on the center south side of the interior. Now there is continuing excavation work and utility installation on the ground on the inside here. And when we get up to the roof, a good view of the continued work to install those insulating panels and finish up the weatherproof membrane. Along the parapet wall, you can see that kind of brown. That's where that interface is between the roof and the walls. And of course, the weatherproof membrane will seal that off so it does not leak. So they're probably another week away from having the roof completed. I did notice that there is still work going on here on these doors inside for that ground slab. Further into the center of the building, they have been pouring a lot of concrete. And with this angle, it's really hard to tell, but they are continuing to work with that ground slab. In fact, there's a lot of cement trucks or concrete trucks waiting here. It looks like they're doing cleanouts right now. That is most likely part of that ground slab interior work that I mentioned. As we pass over this area with the gravel for that receiving door, I'm going to come around the south corner and just show what this looks like here with some of the transformer and the vault at the bottom of the screen, the way that the ground is being pushed up and leveled up with that black kind of perimeter grade beam and the waterproof mixture that they've added. Of course, here we see form work on the entrance now of this opening. And it looks like some concrete has been poured, probably a mud base, which is used before they put the rebar in. I also see some conduits in that opening. Along the sides of the building, looks like they're doing excavations that are roughly lined up with the drain spouts from the roofing. So they will most likely be adding in either ground vaults or concrete pipes or both, so that they can collect the water and move it away from the building, and then probably tie into the rest of the system to drain it off into the large pond that you see in the upper left. Here's where more of those vaults are being installed, what it looks like. And of course, the grade continues to be raised up here to match up with the higher perimeter grade beam on this side of the building. More of those concrete vaults being set aside, waiting for their turn to be installed, and a different view of the roofing and just how close to the completion that they really are. To bring the drone back down, we get a good view of this work on the west side. Some of the darker colored ground is because they've been spraying it with water to try to keep the dust down. And then here is this concrete pipe kind of manifold system that will connect the rest of the system into that pond. Now we're going to take a look at what's going on here at the south end of the electrical switchyard expansion. Of course, the B-type circuit breaker tops on the ground here, and some more disconnects on the right-hand side. In the middle of the screen, and I'll zoom in here, we see the vaults, conduit, trenching, and the work to extend all of this further to the east and closer towards Cortex 2. So this is most likely the main electrical conduit that will provide power to that building. And with the workers nearby, this gives you sort of a sense of scale of how big those vaults are and the size of the conduit, and also just how far they have to go to connect this all the way over to Cortex. Next to this control trailer on the ground is that connecting tunnel with those yellow cable holders, but still no cables connecting the two sites together. As I pan the drone back to the north, good view with the lighting of all of the steel that is continuing to be erected on top of the footings, and more of those footings being prepared to the north end. The two large concrete slabs on the left are for the big transformers and form a catch basin in case the cooling oil were to leak. This is a nice view of the structure and some of the other kind of brown-like items that are put on top of the steel for right now. And more of the pile drilling. And as I zoom in, this also shows some of the slabs for what I believe to be those V-type circuit breaker bases. And that mimics what we see on the main switchyard on the right-hand side of the screen. But on the ground, you can see where more of those drilled holes are needed, and just how much more work is going to be required until they finish up all the drilling to make the footings. On the north end is a lot of the steel items that will be erected onto those footings once they are completed. And looks like they are doing some sort of fabrication work as well here next to that white truck with a welder. So I'm going to bring the drone up to a higher altitude, kind of give a overall view of all of the site today and many of the areas that we did visit. I hope that you found the information that we talked about in the intro and throughout the video helpful, as well as the views. As always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great week. Take care.